You probably heard this before, to buy a house in a good school zone, but what does that even mean? How do you even rank schools, and is it even accurate to rank schools? I'm going to tell you in this video why buying a house based on a school zone is more of an art than a science. Stay tuned.
Look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as we sit around the table with my friends to talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
So I'm guessing you probably went online, did some searches, and you did your homework on what the best schools are in Toronto. And you probably come across the Fraser rankings. Take it all with a grain of salt, because you might be number 245 out of 3,000 schools. But like, what does that even mean? The Fraser ranking uses EQAO scores, which is from the Education Quality and Accountability Office. So what they do is they measure students from grade 3, grade 6, and grade 9. They give you a test, and it's based on reading, writing, and math. So I remember growing up and doing these tests. It wasn't like any other test. I don't get it. You don't see the results. You don't get scores at the end of the day. You just basically have a teacher who walks around and they're kind of lenient with giving you the answers. Because if I was a principal running that school, I personally would want a higher ranking. Now, maybe they don't get compensated for it, I don't know. But to be proud of a higher ranking school, I don't know the reason. I'm not an educator, so I can't say anything about that. All I know is that those scores change all the time. Whether the teachers feed the students the scores in hopes of getting a better score, or even that it changes from year to year depending on the principal or teacher that you have for that year. So that's why if you look at the Fraser rankings and you see historical rankings, it goes from up to down to everywhere. So it's never really accurate. How do you say one school is better than the other? Is it just based on those factors? Because to me, that's not enough on ranking how good a school is, because there's more to life than just reading, writing, and math. There's the way that your child is dealing with how kind they are to other students, how easy they make friends, how social they are, how active they are, like if they're doing sports or extracurriculars. There's so many different ways to rank a school. And I think really a lot of it, if not more of it, matters outside of the school than in the school itself. If you have a student that's well-rounded, likes to learn, chances are they're showing up in the school, they're getting more out of school. If you're a parent, then you understand what I'm talking about. The EQAO scores, they don't show you anything like teacher engagement, like how involved they are at home, how extracurricular, like all the things they're taking outside of the school, any kind of special education resources if your child needs that. And if you don't have children in your hopes of looking for a neighborhood that has that, I'm sorry, the Fraser rankings and EQAO scores don't tell you that. It's like basically picking a lifelong decision based on one ranking that you see once a year on one metric, well, 3 metrics, reading, writing, and math, but there's so much more to life than just that. So what really drives school quality? In my opinion, it's probably the affluence of your neighbors in the neighborhood. Now, obviously, you can afford where you can afford, but if you look around and you try to get the best, like I think the more affluent the neighborhood is, it kind of drives the better schools, because parents with more resources would have more time and more money to basically give their kids more education. That means you're paying for extracurricular activities. That means you have more time at home. Maybe one parent is not working and you're just like dedicated to raising the children. That also contributes more to a better household, which is then probably a little more stable household, because you know, like Kanye West said it best, right? Having money isn't everything, but not having it is. So if you're just struggling to get by, I bet you households are going to be fighting a lot. I'm going to probably get a lot of hate for this, but like it is what it is. The more affluent the area is, I think the better it is for the schools in general. So it's kind of like hand in hand. But then the natural filter for that is how expensive the area is. Like you can get the same detached home in, like let's call it a B area or C area for, let's call it $1 million. But if you go to like an A area, like one of the top areas, you're talking about $3 million, maybe even $4 million. The A plus areas, you're looking at 5 or 6, 7 million even for a single detached home, which you can get over there like an hour or 45-minute drive away for like $1 million. The neighborhoods change so much between boundary to boundary, and there's no real science to say that I'd rather pick this neighborhood than that neighborhood. And if anybody ever tells you that, and if you do your search yourself and you look at the Fraser rankings, the EQAO scores, and you're kind of like just ranking it based on their metric, reading, writing, and math, I don't know what to tell you. There's more to it than that. Even if you do land yourself in a really good catchment area or a boundary for a school zone, which then determines the affluence of the area, those boundaries change all the time. You know how it is. Like when you cross one street, you could be in all of a sudden a bad neighborhood. If you want to stay in the good neighborhood, like it's really hard to tell, but like some people want to be at a specific school because of whatever reason. Those boundaries change all the time because of overcrowding. If you look at Earl Hague, for example, just look at the school boundary. You'll see like those weird zigzags. And the weird zigzags is because it excludes certain condo buildings. And it's not because of anything against people living in condos that have kids. It's more so that all of a sudden you have 400 to 500 to 700 people living in a specific condo that's just going to flood the school zone. If you have the Young Strip, which is full of condos, Young and Shepherd, it's going to be too full for that high school. That's why their boundaries are excluding certain areas. But whereas other neighborhoods where you know it's just like a certain number of people there, they don't have these tall condo buildings. It's just a simple square, like a very simple shape you can draw out. It's just kind of interesting. But those catchment boundaries change all the time is all I'm trying to say. And if you look at some of the top rankings, if you go by that alone, some of the top school ranks, they don't even reflect the actual affluence of the neighborhood, or there's so much more than just school zones when you're picking a neighborhood. I would say, like, since you're going to be living in this place for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years even, you should look at other factors, such as your commute to work. That's probably a big one. Access to shopping or transit or proximity to your parents and your neighborhood groups, your friends. Now, that's not to say you can't pick a new neighborhood, but it's like if your parents live on the east side of town and you want to move to the west side of town and you see them weekly, that commute is going to be insane. So just there's other areas of consideration that you should think about. And what about the really good neighborhoods that, it's funny, but like some of the really good neighborhoods have not so good schools. The reason why is because a lot of those kids actually end up going to private school, and whoever's left over go to the public school. Or there's gifted programs, or there's French immersion, or Catholic schools, or STEM, or specialized arts programs that kids go to. It's just like, I wouldn't put all my emphasis on the public school ranking system because, again, like that's not what is the only criteria out there. Sometimes it's not just about the school programs itself, it's about the after programs that you get into, the programs that are offered after, like if you go to extracurricular stuff. As a parent of 3 young children and as a realtor, I'd encourage you to get to know the neighborhood by talking to parents in the area, just visiting the schools, walking around the neighborhood, and just seeing what else is out there. I'm telling you, there's an art to this, and it's not so measured like a ranking system with numbers on a board that you can actually use to check which neighborhood you need to be in. And of course, a lot of it is driven by affordability again. If you want to actually talk more about how to pick your neighborhood that you want to be in, please just give me a call. There's a link below for a form that you enter your information and just book a time with me, and we could talk more about your requirements and kind of see what you're looking for. And again, it's an art, not a science. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.
Add it up.
Thanks for sticking out to the very end. I hope you got some value out of this. Do me a favor, please press like and subscribe, but more than anything, leave me some feedback so we know what to produce for you going forward. Thanks again.